Alden and Maine in Siargao, a beach escape filled with quiet moments, laughter, and the people around them. There's something about the ocean that softens everything. The noise fades, the pressure disappears, and what's left are the moments that truly matter. So when Alden Richards and Maine Mendoza were spotted in the breathtaking island of Siargao, fans didn't just see a trip, they saw a story quietly unfolding. Not loud, not dramatic, just real. An island that feels like home. Siargao has always been known for its waves, its golden sunsets, and its peaceful charm. It's the kind of place where time slows down, where even the busiest hearts find rest. And for Alden and Maine, it felt like the perfect escape. Far from the spotlight, far from expectations, just the sound of the ocean and the warmth of familiar company. Because what made this trip even more special wasn't just the location, it was who they were with. Not alone, but surrounded by the right people. This wasn't a grand, publicized getaway. It felt more intimate than that. The kind of trip shared with close friends, trusted colleagues, and people who have been part of their journey, both on and off screen. Though not everything was documented, fans noticed glimpses. Laughter in the background, shared meals by the shore, group moments that felt effortless and genuine. It wasn't about showing off. It was about being present. And sometimes the people around you say more about your story than any headline ever could. Moments that didn't need words. What made this Siargao trip stand out wasn't grand gestures. It was the small things. A quiet walk by the beach, a shared glance during sunset, a laugh that didn't need explanation. For fans of Alden and Maine, these moments felt familiar, yet different, because time has changed them. They're no longer just the faces people fell in love with years ago. They've grown, and somehow that growth makes these quiet interactions feel even more meaningful. Why fans can't help but feel something. There's a reason why every sighting, every photo, every simple moment sparks emotion. It's not just nostalgia, it's connection. Alden and Maine have always carried something rare, a presence that feels sincere, even in silence. And seeing them in a place like Siargao, surrounded by people they trust, living in the moment, it reminds fans of something deeper. That not everything has to be announced to be real. That not every story needs words to be understood. Sometimes, you just feel it. A different kind of story. If this trip showed anything, it's this. Their story isn't about big declarations anymore. It's about quiet comfort, shared spaces, natural moments, and the people who matter most. The beach, in a way, becomes a symbol. Endless, calm, honest, just like the kind of connection that doesn't need to prove anything because it simply exists. Who were with them? Maybe that's not the point. Fans often ask, who exactly were with them? Was it just friends? Was it work-related? But maybe that's not the most important part, because what truly stood out wasn't the list of names. It was the feeling. A group that felt comfortable, a space that felt safe, moments that felt unfiltered. And in a world where everything is often curated, that kind of authenticity is rare. A soft kind of happiness. There's a different kind of happiness you find in places like Siargao. It's not loud. It doesn't demand attention. It simply exists in the breeze, in the laughter, in the quiet understanding between people. And seeing Alden and Maine in that kind of space, it feels like they've found something gentle, something real. Some stories are meant to be felt, not explained. Maybe this trip wasn't meant to answer questions. Maybe it wasn't meant to confirm anything. Maybe it was simply a moment in time, shared with the right people, in the right place. But for those who have followed Alden Richards and Maine Mendoza for years, it meant something. Not because of what was shown, but because of what was felt. One last thought. If you looked closely at those quiet Siargao moments, you'd realize something beautiful. It wasn't about the beach. It wasn't about the trip. It was about the kind of connection that feels at peace, no matter where it is. And maybe that's the most meaningful story of all. When the trip ends, but the feeling stays. Trips like this don't last forever. The waves settle, the bags get packed, flights are taken back to reality. But somehow, the feeling lingers. For Alden Richards and Maine Mendoza, Siargao may just be another destination on the map. But for those who witnessed even the smallest glimpses of their time there, it felt like something more. Because it wasn't about what they showed. It was about what quietly stayed behind. In the way they moved, the way they smiled, the way they simply existed in the same space. and the kind of peace you don't have to explain. There's a certain kind of peace that doesn't need definition. You see it in comfortable silence, effortless laughter, moments that don't feel forced. And in Siargao, that peace seemed to wrap around them so naturally. No pressure to perform, no need to prove anything, just presence. And sometimes that's the purest form of connection anyone can have. A bond that grows quietly. What makes this even more meaningful is how different everything feels now. Before, everything was grand. Now everything is gentle. Before, it was all about moments that made hearts race. Now it's about moments that make hearts rest. And maybe that's what growth looks like. Not louder, but deeper. Not rushed, but steady. A bond that doesn't fade, it simply evolves. Siargao as a silent witness. If the ocean could speak, it would probably tell a story no one fully understands. A story of two people who have shared so much history, now standing in a place where everything feels calm, where nothing is demanded, where everything is simply allowed to be. And maybe that's why Siargao felt so perfect, because it didn't try to define anything. It just held the moment. Final thoughts. The beauty of what isn't said. At the end of it all, there are no grand confirmations, no clear answers, no labels. And maybe that's exactly what makes it beautiful. Because not all meaningful stories are meant to be explained. Some are meant to be felt, quietly, gently, and sincerely. For fans, for onlookers, for anyone who has ever believed in something unspoken, this Siargao moment becomes more than just a trip. It becomes a reminder that connections don't always need noise to be real. That time doesn't erase something genuine, it reshapes it. And that sometimes the most powerful emotions are the ones that stay soft. One last sweet thought. If one day, years from now, people look back at these simple beach moments in Siargao, they won't remember the details. They won't ask who was there or what exactly happened. They'll remember the feeling, the calm, the warmth, the quiet kind of happiness. And maybe they'll smile and think, some stories never really end. They just find new ways to exist. And in that quiet space between what is seen and what is felt, the story of Alden Richards and Maine Mendoza continues, not loudly, but beautifully.